everyone, I'm Dr. Basheerah Ahmad and welcome to Wellness Talks with Dr. B. This is a new series where I focus on topics in health and wellness that help you to create your best quality of life. In today's episode, we are focusing all on something that we know too much about, which is burnout. So we're going to discuss what is burnout, what are the signs and the symptoms, and how can you recover from it and even prevent it. So burnout is actually, you may not have known this, but burnout is a symptom experienced by people who experience prolonged durations of extreme stress. So often in the westernized world especially, burnout is associated with working or with entrepreneurs, right? But now they're even noticing that it has a lot to deal with stay-at-home parents and even students, which makes a lot of sense. So you might be thinking, well, how do I know if I'm burned out? Well, the reality of it is, at some point in all of our lives, we have come across some endeavor where we were overwhelmed with trying to do so well at it that we by far surpassed our ability to deliver, right? You feeling me on that one? Well, here's the thing. When we push ourselves beyond our limitations, what happens is that we mismanage normal stress and we end up burning out. So, like I told you earlier, I want to help you learn how to deal with the signs and the symptoms. So there are 5 phases of burnout. First one, eager to please. Second one, stress onset. Third, chronic stress. Fourth, active burnout. And fifth, habitual burnout. You're probably thinking, okay, 5 phases? Well, what's interesting is when I actually did the research, I realized that for most of my life, I was actually in stage 3 for most of it. So I had to actually use this information to pull back to make sure I didn't reach phase 5. So here's what you can experience in the phases. So the eager to please, which is phase number 1, that's when you're extremely excited about a project. Like, just think about it. So you start a new job, a new project as an entrepreneur, and you are excited. You're like, oh yeah, I got this. We're doing it. I'm staying up. I'm doing more than I need to. I'm going to deliver before the deadline, right? Then after a while, you're like, okay, I'm tired. Okay, so that eager to please starts to wane a little bit. Then you start to enter phase 2, which is stress onset. That's when that enthusiasm continues to kind of go away. You notice that you're working a lot more hours than you normally used to have to, and it's just losing its appeal. Well, if nothing is done at that stage, you move on to phase number 3, which is chronic stress. Now, you are at this level. This is where you can't even remember the last time you made yourself a priority. And this is also the phase where you start to see physical symptoms of burnout occur. You may notice that you have headaches, dizziness, nausea, stomach irritations, and most of this is caused by stress. Well, if you're like me, maybe not knowing that you're in this phase or just not understanding how serious it could be, you'll then move on to phase number 4, which is active burnout. In active burnout, we often tell people, especially my clients, that, guys, you need an intervention at this point because you're just so far in, you don't know where to stop. If nothing is done, you're moving to phase 5, which is habitual burnout. In habitual burnout, you all, this is where we start seeing chronic illnesses show up, like ulcers, depression, or even addiction. You all, this is a serious thing that we're dealing with, but it can be preventable. So I don't want you listening to this information thinking like, well, dang, I guess I'm just through it. Remember, I said most of my life I've been around that phase 3. So here are a few tips where you could actually recover from burnout and then maybe prevent it in the future. Number 1, you gotta learn how to balance. I know it sounds so simple, but most of us don't do it. Okay, I'm preaching to the choir. Balance work and play. And don't allow your play to also include work. Separate them. Life has so many beautiful aspects to it. Take the time to stop and smell the roses. Number 2, look at your foods and your beverages. So the same way as there are a lot of foods that help to add to stress, there are a lot of foods that can actually help you manage it, like adaptogens, which are plants and foods that actually help you deal with stress, anxiety, or fatigue. So I want you to look up those adaptogens. I'll make sure I put in the link. And then tip number 3. Tip number 3 is go to sleep. Yes, I said it. Take your butt to sleep. We underestimate the power of a good night's rest, okay? This mind, this body, this spirit needs time to re-energize, refocus, and that's why we were created, to go to bed at night. So do yourself a favor, get 7 to 9 hours of sleep if at all possible. So that's it for Burnout. I hope that you enjoyed this information, and we'll see you next time on Wellness Talks with Dr. B.